Okay, today we're basically putting 3 crazy good AI video generators in a little showdown, because I want to see which one actually deserves the hype. These tools are backed by some pretty big companies, and they can create some seriously realistic-looking videos. But we're not just going to stare at one pretty clip and call it a day. Nope. I'm going to push all 3 of them with 3 different prompts, and each one is going to get a little more interesting as we go. We'll check the motion, the realism, the camera movement, the little details, all of it. And by the end, I'm picking my favorite. But honestly, my vote isn't the only one that matters here. You might notice something I completely missed. So watch the results and tell me in the comments which tool you'd actually pick. Okay, enough intro. Let's get into it. Oh, and one tiny thing before we start, because I know someone's going to ask. These tools aren't fully free, but you can still test them without immediately paying. They give you credits to play around with, and most of them refresh credits on a daily basis or give you some amount of free usage. So you can definitely run a few prompts and see what you're working with. If one of them ends up being your favorite, then you can decide later if the paid plan is worth it for you. For now though, I'm not spending money just to be nice to these tools. We're putting those free credits to work. Alright, let's start with number 3, Qwen AI. This one's a Chinese AI tool, and I'm actually curious to see how it handles fast-moving scenes, because that's where video generators can get messy really fast. So for the first test, I went with a horse race on a huge beach, filmed from a first-person perspective, with 2 riders keeping pace beside us while these massive waves are crashing in the background. And honestly, this is a pretty fun one to watch. The movement feels energetic. There's a lot happening around the camera, and the whole beach setup gives it a really cinematic feel. Okay, now let's make things a little crazier. For the second prompt, I'm throwing a supercar into a futuristic city at night, flying through the streets with neon lights whipping past the camera. And yeah, this one definitely has that futuristic movie vibe. The lights, the speed, the environment, it all comes together pretty nicely, especially when the camera starts moving through the city. But I'm not stopping there. For the final test, we're going even faster with a superbike ripping through a winding mountain road, leaning hard into the corners with realistic camera shake along the way. This one is probably my favorite of the 3 because you can really feel the speed. The turns are aggressive, the camera movement makes it feel more alive, and the whole shot has that slightly chaotic feeling you'd expect when you're flying down a mountain on a bike. Not bad at all for our first tool, but we still have 2 more generators to put through the same kind of pressure. Alright, Qwen's done, so let's move on to tool number 2, Xirelle AI. One thing I noticed right away is that it can generate 3 versions at the same time, which is actually pretty handy when you're trying to compare results instead of sitting there waiting for one clip after another. And there are a bunch of different models inside Xirelle too, so you can definitely mess around and see what works best for you. But for now, I'm ignoring all that and sticking to our video test. First prompt, a first-person helicopter flying straight through this gigantic natural tunnel in the mountains, then suddenly coming out over a massive valley. And okay, this looks really cool. The scale of the mountains and that moment when the helicopter breaks out into the open make the shot feel huge. The only downside? This generation took forever. Like, girl, I had time to question my life choices waiting for this one. But once it finally showed up, the result was pretty solid. Now let's switch it up completely. For the second test, we've got a rally car absolutely flying through a muddy forest track, drifting around corners while trees are rushing past the camera. And this one has way more chaos to it, in a good way. You can really see the speed and the movement, and the muddy track makes the whole thing feel much more intense. Okay, last one. We're taking a dirt bike into a rocky canyon, launching over these huge rocks, landing hard, and immediately taking off again. And honestly, this one has some serious energy. The jumps, the rough terrain, and that quick acceleration after the landing make it feel like the camera is barely keeping up. Arena definitely brought some interesting results, but we still have one more tool left, and that's the one I've been waiting to test. Alright, now we're at number 1, Google Flow. So to get started, just search for Google Flow in your browser, open the official site, and log in. Super simple. Now let's see if this one can actually live up to the number 1 spot. For the first test, I'm going with a first-person roller coaster ride, flying down a massive drop and then twisting through tunnels at ridiculous speed. And wow, okay, this looks really, really good. The motion feels smooth, the environment has a lot of detail, and the camera movement actually sells that whole roller coaster feeling instead of just looking like a camera flying around randomly. I'm liking this already, but we've got 2 more, so let's not crown it yet. Next prompt, a skier launching down a huge snowy mountain, cutting hard between trees at full speed. And this one is gorgeous. The snow, the mountain, the movement through the trees, it all feels surprisingly clean, and the camera stays close enough to make the whole thing feel like you're actually along for the ride. Okay, final test. And for this one, I wanted something where the camera has to react really quickly. So we've got a wild buffalo charging straight toward us while the camera is rapidly backing away. And yeah, this is where flow really starts showing off. The animal movement looks much more convincing, the camera reacts naturally, and the overall detail is seriously nice. Out of everything we've tested so far, this one definitely feels the most polished to me. But now comes the annoying part. I actually have to choose a winner. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, all 3 of these gave us some pretty wild results, and picking between them was way harder than I expected. Each one had moments where I was like, okay, wait, that actually looks good. But if I had to choose one overall, I'd give the win to Google Flow. The realism, camera movement, and overall consistency just felt a little stronger to me. That said, I want to know what you think, because you might have noticed something I didn't. So drop your winner in the comments and tell me which one impressed you the most. And if you want to try any of these tools yourself, I've put the useful resources and links in the description. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the test, you know what to do. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!